Hi, and thanks for joining me again for another episode of Monsta MTV. And today we are going to talk about how to choose and work with tradies. Many trades that you may have in your project, or you might only have the one trade to deal with on your project. So there's some useful information I'm about to give you. And the most important piece firstly is, how do you find the tradie that you want? How do you find that tradesperson? It might be a male or female, many of them out there now that can do both. Well, look, my advice is nothing is like a referral or a recommendation, particularly someone that you know that has used someone or worked with someone and you've seen their work. That is fantastic to go with. It's a great starting point because at least you've got some confidence to have seen how they've carried out their trade or their work, and also the experience from whoever had used them that you know about. And if it's a good story, it's worthwhile following through. There are some really good websites now, things like High Pages and other forums where you can actually find tradespeople on there. You do searches, put in your postcode. The tradies that are involved with those places like High Pages will actually make sure that they've got all their items in place to impress the potential client. So that's a really good source as well. Yeah, look, maybe even Yellow Pages online still is an option, but I do think the High Pages piece and the likes are probably the more modern day of going about it now. Scale the job that you've got, and that will determine how many tradies you need to speak to. And I would tell you that meeting the tradesperson is key. You can do so much by email, by phone, but when you think you might be close to having them as a selection or a potential candidate to select, they may need to come out to your house or to your property to see the project. That is really a good part of gauging them then. You'll be able to see their mannerisms, the way they present themselves, because sometimes you can have a really impressive website and a great Facebook page, and then push comes to shove, it looks like it's come out of something that resembles a rubbish dump. So you might want to make sure that meeting with them gives you a good first impression, and I believe that any business person, tradesperson, tradie, is going to want to impress their client to do that. Play your part when you have that meeting with them. Really important. You need to have a plan and a vision and share it. I think if you let your tradesperson know exactly what it is you want, what you're looking for, if you've got magazines or you've got drawings, you've got photos, and you're telling them this is what you want, they start to get a feel for the type of person you are and what your project wants. And if they can see the passion in you, you should see the passion come out of them to make sure that they understand and connect with your vision, your dream, and so they ensure that they talk in the same language in terms of how they're going to quote that project up. And if there's any changes that you're going to make, or you in the discussions with these tradies, because you might have a whole range of tradespeople that you're going to assemble for your project, and you might have one that you've decided to think, oh yeah, okay, we'll make that change here and go with that path. You need to tell the other trades that you're getting quotes from, because it could impact the quotes they're giving you. Don't just assume that everyone understands each other. It is really, really important that the knowledge that you've got, or the path that you might have adjusted or modified, is shared with the other trades. So, finding your trade, talking to your trade, you need to make sure they are licensed. Really, really important, okay? And they should have all the compliances in place with a trades or building license, and different states will have different requirements, and that includes the insurance that they have, okay? And ask these questions, okay? They should show it to you, and it should be on their business card or their quotation. But what is also worthwhile asking, and to ask them, are they members of the Master Builders Association or the HIA, or even a trade association like a Master Plumber, Master Painter? That may not be the deciding point for you to go with them. They may have great work and not be a member of a trade association, but what it does, it allows you to know that they've registered, there's a certain level of ethics and compliance that they've got to have with those associations, and you can always do checks that way, just to make sure that if you've got a significant spend, you've got an option to go and check out where they've worked, and if there's ever been a black ban on them or something you might be concerned about. And references. When you're talking to these guys, don't be afraid to ask them. These days I see lots of great tradies doing work on social media. They've got Facebook pages, Instagram pages, they've got live videos going, showing their work. Guys that showcase their stuff, that level of transparency gives me a lot of comfort when I see that, because they've got nothing to hide. It reminds me of when you go to a restaurant and the kitchen's open and you can see through that kitchen. That to me tells me there's nothing to hide through that kitchen and what they're cooking up. And same with your tradies. So if they're showing stuff all the time and regular posts, that's a great one to actually, for you to make a bit of a call on. And you can actually bring those projects up and ask them, say, hey, I saw the way you laid these tiles on one project, or the way you painted this, or the roof job you've done. It is really good conversation. It'll give them an understanding that you've done also some checks on them as well, and they will start, that's a really good icebreaker and a conversation point to have with them. And a good tradie also, when you find them and you have that discussion, can also help you with recommendations of other tradespeople you might want, because a lot of these guys work together, will know each other, either through building clients or private works they've done. And a recommendation, if you're happy with a tradie you might have found, and a good recommendation from them can also give you that peace of mind if you know that they're fussy with the level of work and their expectation. And the one question I would ask before you decide is ask them, why should I use you? Okay? And there should be no offence taken. You don't want a dick to rock up to your site and actually do something that you're actually not happy with or give you attitude. If they should be able to explain why you should select their quote, and they might not be the cheapest quote, and you don't always want to go with the cheapest quote, but they'll explain to you what it is they do differently, why you should use them, and then you've got something you can hold them to in that discussion with them, and you'll actually be able to gauge the personality of that tradesperson, that business. And I always find that when people ask you that, the first impression, the response you get is a really good gauge to know this might be someone I want to get in bed with in terms of having them on my property to do this work, or this person may not be for me and I'll go to the next number or look at that other quote that we got. So there's some really simple questions and important ones you should ask for when you're trying to reference out the tradesperson. So you're going to get your quote now and make sure that is in writing. Do not just take a phone call or a text message. Get a formal quote in writing. Ensure all the work you've spoken to about that tradesperson or tradies that you've been, different companies you're getting quotes from, is all documented. And if there's anything missing that you think, hey, we spoke about this piece in our discussion and when you came out and it's not on the quote, follow it up, particularly if you're keen on them, okay? Because what's documented now, make sure that the right at the end when you make that payment is all happy days. You don't have any issues there. Ask questions when you get it. Cover it with a tradie. It would be great even if you go through things that you might think this could be a dumb question, but does it mean, if you've got things like debris, building rubbish that's got to be removed from site, did they include that? Just because they mentioned it, you might think they were including it, and the tradesperson has got a completely different mindset or opinion on what's going on. Working weekends, etc. Ask these questions. There are no dumb questions. A good tradesperson who's giving you a quote will walk through that with you and explain it all. Really, really important. And most importantly, go through the payment and trading terms. If you've got a significant size renovation or building works where you've got different tradies on, and they're going to be there over a few weeks, they're probably going to be wanting progress payments through the whole transaction. Make sure that's there. What's the expectation? Is it weekly? Is it fortnightly? Is it monthly? If they're coming to do some works and they're going to come back 3 months later when other trades are finished, that needs to be all clarified, okay? And never, never, never pay for the full work up front and pay the final instalment when the job's completed. And a good tradesperson will want to walk through that with you, ensure that you're happy with the job. They've shown you what it is. You can run it against the quote that you received, go back to that. You make that final payment. They want to make sure you're happy because they know if you're happy, you're going to pass that good experience on to someone else. And you want to make sure that you're happy because what you're paying for is what you had budgeted for and anticipated. So really important to ensure that first quote in writing, the company you're going with or the trader you're going with, it is there and you've been delivered exactly what your expectation was. I mentioned before about communication. It is key. Communication is key. Do not assume trades know what each other are doing. Just because they're all qualified and these guys come in vans and utes and decked out in all the gear and know how to run tools and look masters at their trade, The plumber doesn't always know what the tiler's doing, the tiler doesn't know what the plumber's doing, the electrician, the flooring guys, the gyprockers, the plasterers, the brickies. It is important that if there's an opportunity for you that you've got a whole range of trades on site and you're not always going to be there to assist with that, and you don't want your phone going off and playing three-way battles and killing your time during the day, some simple stuff like having a laminated piece of paper with all the names of the trades or guys you've got on site with who they are, their contact numbers and name there, and then tell the other tradies, hey, if you need to ring an electrician, here's Chris's name and number, there it is, and they can just find it. And so it's plastering a piece of on an area of your home or where the renovation's happening so they can contact each other. And real simple that you don't actually then have to play the three-way tag and ensure that you translating the message right from one tradesperson to the other. Let them talk together, they're the professionals, and follow it through that way. And a relationship. Wherever you can, build that relationship, okay? If you're nice to your trading, okay, and I know people expect that they're the customer and they want it the other way back, and that should be the case, but work with them, talk to them, but if you're nice to them, I can tell you many traders will take care of you, okay? And again, that goes back to how I said at the start of the selection. If they get your vision and know the personality and what it is and how important this is to you, and you're happy with what you've selected at the start, and you've had these discussions early on, they should live up to it. And you've got to let them know if there's things that you aren't happy with. There's no doubt about that. Sometimes coffee and cake or a few cookies can help if you're on site with them. But at the end of the day, that open relationship, talking about them, asking them questions, asking them for photos if you're not always going to be there, if you might be away or a distance away from where the reno's happening and they're there, and so they can give you some progress results. These days with technology and phones, etc., it's real easy to do all that. On completion of the works, run through it all, okay? Ask questions, cover it off, and pay them as you've promised, okay? Now, we hear a lot of horror stories out there, and I've got to say, tradies are at the end of a lot of bad stories, and they tend to get generalised a lot, where people say, oh, you know, this guy's crap, and talk about all the horror stories. But there's a lot of good stories out there and experiences people have had with tradies. And don't put them all in the one basket. I can tell you we have many customers that we deal with, trades guys, and they do a great job. They look after their clients, and they live off private works and off of word of mouth referrals. So that's why I said at the start, check that out, because you don't always have to take the cheapest quote. You don't have to take what's just thrown at you. You might have a concreter that, you know, or a trade in the early stages with some major works where you might not get to talk or see photos of things like that. But if they're doing the job right and you can trust what they're doing and you've been referred and checked that out, you go with that piece. But don't always put all the traders in one basket, but do your homework, plan and prepare, and that'll get you what you want. And one interesting fact that's come to us that we've been tracing over the last couple of years is female traders. And apparently there's, I believe, close to 10% of all registered trades in the country now that are employed as tradespeople that are females, but still only less than 2% of tradeswomen, female tradies, are on site. So don't discount that you might find a good tradeswoman person out there that can do the job. And I've seen some really good carpenters and tilers out there that are females and have done some great work. Check them out. Don't just think it has to be male. It's construction is a male-dominated industry, but like always, the fair trade always comes through and shows us what they can do. So you might want to give that a go as well and just check out what they've done. Sometimes, as we see a lot with women industry, their attention to detail just might be what you want. So don't discount that. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of MTV. Really appreciate your time. I will see you on the next episode. Good luck with the trade.